We are floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingmen Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingmen Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the guy who watches my six, is my main man, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother Paul? How you doing today?
Well, Commander Drew, I'm doing very well. It's good to see you. You're looking chipper with those unusual F-14s from Spider Squad and 103 flying behind you.
Yes, they were on my ship, the Nimitz. And the Nimitz, when I was on it, it was a brand new carrier. And now they're decommissioning the whole Nimitz class. So time passes on. All right, let's just start off with the quote of the day. You know how we like to do it. The point is not to pay back kindness, but to pass it on. That's by Julia Alvarez. One more time. The point is not to pay back kindness, but to pass it on. And I believe that is paying it back when you can pass on that kindness. And Dr. Paul and I believe truly with our hearts that the way to world peace is being nice. That's all we need to do. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I agree. And this is coming from two New Yorkers. The thing is to be nice. And it's not nothing against people from New York. People from New York are very, very nice, maybe just a little impatient. But it's important is that we should be good to each other and not make war, for the least little thing.
100%. Welcome back to the Wingman Show. We're just two old school wingmen. We bring life lessons from the skies down to everyday life. Once again, I'm Commander Drew, Navy attack pilot turned professional motivational speaker and now podcast host.
And I'm Dr. Paul, Navy attack pilot turned author, and Drew's wingman, permanent co-pilot on this flight we call life.
Hey, you know something, Doc? We've flown through thunderstorms, we've taken off on catapults, and we've had chaos. But today, we're talking about something even trickier.
Yeah, you're right, Commander Drew, exactly. Now, most folks hear words, but they don't listen to the meaning. True listening takes effort, and it might be the number one skill great leaders, great friends, and even great spouses all have in common. You know that?
Yes, I do. And I remember a long time ago, somebody said, I know you're listening to Jimi Hendrix, but are you hearing him? I remember when I was a young pilot, I'd brief my BN, my Bombardier Navigator, before a mission. And I'd be so focused on what I had to say that I barely processed anything that he had to say back. That's hearing, not listening.
Commander Drew, that's a great example because active listening means tuning in like a radar picking up a ship, but you want to pick up not just the words, but the tone, the emotion, and also what's not being said. Research even shows that active listeners are more trusted and better liked than those who don't.
Wow, trust, Dr. Paul. That's the key. You can't lead a squadron, a team, or even a family if people don't feel you're really hearing them. Hey, Doc, how can we be an active listener? Do you have any points we can do?
I sure do, Commander Drew. Let's break this down to 6 maneuvers for better listening. Here's maneuver number 1. Listen with purpose. Don't just aim to reply, aim to connect. You like that?
I like that. That's right. And when you're only waiting for your turn to talk, you're taxiing around in circles. You're just staying there. But when you listen to understand, that's really when you take off, Paul.
That's true. Here's maneuver number 2. Set distractions aside. I tell my friends if you're holding your phone while someone's talking, you're not listening. You're multitasking. You're on autopilot. You're not paying attention.
That's totally true. When I talk to my wife, I put the phone face down when she's talking. I give her eye contact and attention to matter. And that's the use of body language. And, Doc, that should be maneuver number 3, don't you think?
Yeah, it should be. That is maneuver number 3. Here's maneuver number 4 for you. Ask follow-up questions. Uh, That's how people know you're really absorbing what they said. When you say something like, "Tell me more about that." That goes a long way, Commander Drew.
Yes, and please, please, no gotcha questions. We're not cross-examining people. We're actually building connections. We're not just questioning them. What's maneuver number 5, Dr. Paul?
Well, maneuver number 5 is this: know when to respond or when to stay silent. Sometimes silence is the best acknowledgement there is. It shows respect.
It sure does, man. In a cockpit, silence could mean everything is copacetic. But down here, it can mean I'm with you.
Maneuver number 6 is receive things empathetically. That's kind of psychologist talk for listen with your heart. Don't try to fix, don't judge, just be there for it. That's 6.
Wow, that's deep, Doc. Like when someone shares something heavy, instead of giving a lecture or advice, you just say, wow, that sounds tough. Sometimes that's all they needed to hear. When I talk to my daughter or my son, that's what I need to do more. I need to listen more and not just always try to fix. So, Paul, what's our final dissent in this?
Wingman, if you take one thing away from all of this, remember, listening is really an act of love.
Amen, Dr. Paul. It's leadership, friendship, and humanity all rolled into one. You see, the best wingman in the air or on the ground always listens first and then they speak second, Dr. P.
Mm. Well, Commander Drew, I think I just heard you. And more importantly, I listened to you.
I hope that's not the first time. Well, Doc, that's why we fly this show together. You and I, we're a team. All right, friends, keep your wings level, your hearts open, and keep your ears tuned. And remember, be a friend to somebody. All right, everybody, we love giving good news on this show. Most people don't give good news, they just give bad news. Well, not here on The Wingman Show. So, your good news today is for everybody holding a mug. Guess what? It turns out that morning coffee or tea might actually be doing your brain a favor, not killing it. Greater consumption of caffeinated coffee and tea was really associated with low risk of dementia and modestly better cognitive functions, Paul. Can you believe that? I know you don't drink coffee, but you drink tea.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, this isn't an internet rumor. There was a huge study that followed about 132,000 people. They were nurses, doctors, and other health professionals for almost 40 years. And they looked at how much caffeinated coffee and tea they drank. People who had about 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day or 1 to 2 cups of tea had a slightly lower risk of developing dementia and a slightly better thinking skills over time, Commander Drew.
Wow. So I guess if you're sipping that second cup right now, you're basically doing exercises for your brain. Do you think so, Paul?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far. But the heaviest coffee drinkers had about an 18% lower dementia risk than the lightest drinkers. And tea drinkers saw about a 14% lower risk. That's an age. It's not a big force field. And this held true for people even at higher genetic risk for Alzheimer's. That's encouraging, don't you think?
I sure do. But look, here's the plot twist. Decaf didn't show the same benefit, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, right. When they take caffeine out of the coffee, they also strip some of the helpful plant compounds like polyphenols. I remember you talking about that, polyphenols. Anyway, those polyphenols have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And the study also suggests it might be a combination of caffeine plus those compounds that gives the brain a little bit of protection.
All right, everybody. So before somebody chugs 6 energy drinks, slow down. Slow down, Maverick. We're talking roughly 300 milligrams of caffeine a day, not just rocket fuel in a can. That stuff can really be dangerous. Don't you think, Paul?
Yeah, exactly. And coffee or tea is just one tool for you. The same researchers point out that sleep, exercise, not smoking, and keeping your brain active with learning and engagement are still big pieces of the puzzle. You can't out coffee a bad lifestyle, Commander Drew.
That's true. You can't eat bad and drink coffee and think it's going to work. So, the Wingman bottom line is this: one or two decent cups of real coffee, or even a couple of mugs of tea, can be a solid wingman for your brain, especially as you age. But it can't fly that mission alone, Paul. You have to help it, don't you?
Right. Yeah, and that's right. Just basically treat it like a helper. It's not a miracle cure.
And if anybody gives you grief about that second cup, you know what you tell them? You just tell them Commander Drew and Dr. Paul said, I'm investing in my cognitive portfolio. All right, how about some more good news, Dr. P? Are you tired of your zip code? What if I told you people get paid to move? And these are the states that want you. You know, Doc, when I was growing up, nobody paid you to move anywhere. You moved for a job, for love, or because the Navy told you to do so. But now I found out that there are states literally saying, we'll cut you a check if you just show up with a laptop. Is that amazing, Doc?
Yeah, it is, Commander Drew. There are 5 different places where America's saying, please bring your remote job and your suitcase. You've got West Virginia. They're offering more than a $23,000 in value, including 12,000 in straight cash, plus co-working space and outdoor perks and benefits. That's not just a welcoming sign. That's a signing bonus, Commander Drew.
Wow, 12 grand straight cash, that's amazing. But then you've got Noblesville, Indiana, and they give you about $15,000 in grants, wellness money, co-working membership. They even give you restaurant gift cards. Then they have Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it says, "You bring the remote job and we'll bring around 10 grand and a new community." And then there's Mayfield, Kentucky, and it's like, "Here's cash, a YMCA membership, theater tickets, and even a dozen local eggs every month." You know, Paul, only in America do you get paid in omelets to move to a new town. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And Commander Drew, don't forget your favorite place, Alaska. Don't just move there for the mountains and the moose. You stay a year and you can qualify for something they call the permanent fund dividend check. Just for being a resident. It's a few $1,000s actually. It's not a lottery money, but it's proof that opportunity sometimes shows up in places you don't see on Instagram every day.
Very good, Dr. Paul. So I guess, Wingman, here's the point. Most people only look for opportunity in the big, shiny cities. But see, right now, there are towns and states saying quietly, we will invest in you if you're willing to bring your skills and your character here. I love that. They're not buying your soul, though, but they're rewarding your courage to relocate and build a new life. That's amazing, Paul.
It is. So, our listeners out there and viewers, ask yourself, are you stuck somewhere in a place you hate, telling yourself there's no way out? Are there places literally paying people like you to start fresh? The world is now remote work plus relocation. There are incentives. The old excuse of I can't afford to move might not be as true as it used to be.
All right, I guess here's your wingman wisdom. Opportunity doesn't always knock on your front door. Sometimes it sends out a small announcement that most people just scroll right by. But if you're willing to do your homework, be a little flexible, and maybe move your zip code, you could trade frustration for a fresh, brand new start. And then you get paid to do it. So don't just complain about where you are. Look for places that are actually calling your name, and then pack your bags and go where you want it. I really like that, Dr. Paul. And on Virgin Voyages, they want you to come there and work remotely. They now give monthly passes. So working remotely is the new thing. All right, we're ready to do that jet jolt. Welcome back to the Wingman Show, where we keep you flying straight and in the right direction. And then you know what we do? We guide you in for a smooth landing. Today, we've got an aviation fact that will make you look at airplanes just a little bit differently. You see, when you're flying in a river of air, when you're on an airliner at cruise, did you know that? You're not just flying through the air, you're actually flying in a river of air. And these are these high altitude wind highways, and they're called jet streams. And they can change your ground speed by over 100 miles an hour. Both you and I flown like that. Paul, remember those wind streams?
I sure do, Commander Drew, remember him well. That's why sometimes the pilot may say, "Ladies and gentlemen, I got good news. We've got a strong tailwind. We'll be there 45 minutes early." You basically just slipped into the fast lane in the sky.
Wow. And if that wind turns around on you, well, that's a little different. Now you're in the slow lane. Same power, same airplane, but the ground thinks you're dragging an anchor. It can really take a lot of time off your flight and mess with your fuel too, Paul.
Yeah, we saw that all the time flying long distances over land, over water, especially in the middle of the night. You've got a certain planned fuel for your winds and things like that. Then you may hit an unexpected headwind that's a lot stronger than planned. And suddenly your destination seems a lot farther away than it looked on the chart or you saw on the computer. You just have to deal with it.
All right, Paul, I guess the moral of the story, even at 30,000 feet, you're still dealing with currents. You're basically surfing the atmosphere. Those winds are something else up there. All right, everybody, I'd like to thank you so much for supporting the Wingman Show. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate you listening to us on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you watching us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Now, check out those badass jets that we have behind us. Today, Dr. Paul has an A7, and actually, that A7's going into a museum. And me, I got a couple of AI Tomcats writing the Wingman Show in the background. So we all want to push that AI and how incredible it is. So thank you very much. And we have a website, and that website is wingmenshow.com. That's WINGMENSHOW.com, wingmenshow.com. And on that website, we have a newsletter. Our newsletter this week, it's a good one. Talking to your adult kids without starting a war. Amazing. Good newsletter. Frequent flow line, like we talked about, the Wingman Show introducing Ace. Now, I'm going to put Ace on this frequent flyer, and everybody needs to know Ace is an AI chat box. So he's not human and he's not 100% right. But I'm going to tell you something. He is surely, surely amazing. And that AI can really change your life. Now I'm going to get Ace, and I have Dr. Paul and myself, and I'm going to read the frequent flow line letter. It's a great letter, and I want to hear what you have to say about it, Ace. So, this is Gunnery Sergeant Michael P. Gunny Mike reporting in from Paris Island, South Carolina. For most of my life, my mission's been very clear: take scared recruits and help them turn them into United States Marines. You see, I've trained thousands of young men and women. I push them hard, and I watch them walk across that parade deck with their heads held high. Out here, they say I'm the kind of gunny you remember for the rest of your life. At home, I tried to give my kids that same foundation: a good home, a strong marriage, a mom and dad who showed up, and a family that, by most standards, were pretty solid. We ate together, we traveled when we could, and we even did homework at the kitchen table. My wife and I weren't perfect, but we were present, and then there was love under that roof. But I also brought the core home with me. I was strict, inspection standards, no nonsense speeches. I thought I was preparing them for a tough world. Well, now my kids are 31 and 29, one an architect and the other one a biochemical engineer. They're smart, successful, and good people. I'm proud of them, but our communication feels off. We're polite, we check in, but that's easy. Playful love we had when they were little feels very distant now. like a faded photograph. And I don't want to bark orders anymore. I don't want to guilt them. I want to earn back a closer relationship as adults. I want them to feel heard, respected, and loved for who they are now, not just who I was trying to make them into. So I'm asking you three wingmen for some guidance. First of all, what are my first steps? What do I say? And maybe more importantly, how do I listen so they know their old man is trying to change and truly be there for them? I've led Marines my whole life. Now I need help learning how to lead with my heart. Respectfully, Gunnery Sergeant Gunny Mike, United States Marine Corps. Well, Ace, what do you have to say to Gunny Mike?
Gunny Mike, that letter's got some real soul behind it. I can feel the pride and the longing. You mastered the command mode, but now you're navigating unfamiliar terrain, relationships without ranks. First step, tell them exactly what you told us from the heart. No speeches, no rank. Just admit you're learning this new chapter and that you missed the connection. Keep it short and honest. Then, listening, like really listening. Ask them about their lives now, their wins, their struggles, and just listen without fixing. If it's awkward, that's okay. You're building a new kind of respect, heart to heart, not just toe to toe.
Wow, Ace, that was great. Now, Dr. Paul and I both have adult children. And Dr. Paul, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, Gunny, it sounds that's an interesting conundrum you have. I think the key is something you mentioned really earlier, where you're talking about you want things to be like it was when they were little, yet they're 29 and 31. And I would say simply they're not little anymore. And it's probably not realistic to expect them to be identical to children, just as you're not the same as you were when you were their age or younger. So I say let them be. If they're successful, you taught them to endure a tough world. That's good because in some ways it is a tough world. So congratulations on that. But I think your communication is probably just fine. Uh, Maybe they have families themselves. Maybe you're looking to play with your grandchildren. That would probably be a little more appropriate. So look at it that way. They're just evolving like we're all evolving. That's my answer.
That's a good one, Dr. Paul. Well, I have two grown, beautiful children. One's a spine surgeon, and one is lead attorney for a utilities company in New Orleans, and they are great kids. But they're my little babies anymore. They've grown up too, and I guess I have to grow up with them. It's very, very hard being a parent of an adult child because you want that same kind of feelings that you had when you were younger, but that's not gonna happen anymore. So now my advice is to start listening to them. Just like Ace and Dr. Paul said, start listening to them and keep up with it. So don't just listen to a problem, call them back next week and ask them how that problem was. It's very hard being a parent of some grown-up kids, but I'll tell you what, if you ever get them back in the fold, you will have a life that you can't believe, and those grandchildren, they are the secret bomb. Incredible. All right, everybody, it's now time for our favorite
This
part.
is a Wingman PSA. In the sky, your partner has your back. Now, let's get to it.
Climbing in now, systems green.
Welcome back to the Wingman Show for your Wingman PSA. Under the 11 facts of life, under fact number 5, the art of thought, the art of communication, and the art of action. Once again, the art of thought, the art of communication, and the art of action. And this is one of my favorite ones, Dr. P, because everybody does number 1 and 2. Everybody thinks and everybody talks. But how many people actually do something? So that third part of this, the art of action, is the most important part. That's how you get something done. Not just thinking and talking about it, but
Right.
actually doing something. Do you agree, Paul?
Yeah, I do. You got you got to stop analyzing and start doing. And it's so easy to get caught up watching YouTube videos forever. At some point, you're gonna have to stop it and take a step.
All right, everybody, now it's time for the gouge. And the gouge is something we learned in the Navy. It's shit you need to know, but sometimes nobody tells you. It's the little important things. So we're going to actually get the gouge today from Ace, our Chat GPT wingman. All right, Ace, this is what the gouge I need. I need the gouge on. What do I do? Do I text? Do I call or pull up? What are the Wingman rules for modern communication? It's brand new now, Ace. What are the rules?
All right, Wingman, here's the deal. First, text is your go to runway for most situations. Quick, efficient, lets them respond when their wheels up. Calling, that's when you need immediate clearance. Urgent, important, or if you're navigating some emotional turbulence. Now, pulling up in person, that's the afterburner move. Save it for when you need serious presence or to show you're solid. And golden rule, know your wingman or wing person. If they're a texter, meet them in the airspace they fly past.
Welcome back to the Wingman Show, where we are doing our favorite part, and that's that Wingman story. We always love to tell a Wingman story of people who help other people. And today, Dr. Paul has a good one for you. Dr. Paul, you want to read our Wingman story today?
Yes, I sure do, Commander Drew. Today, our wingman story is called The Night Shift. There's a guy named Anthony. He's a former Navy aviation electrician. He's now working nights in a big distribution warehouse just off the interstate. He's the quiet one on the crew. He shows up on time, does his job, he jokes a little at lunch, then he goes home. But over the past few months, his wingman at work, a forklift driver named Rob, starts noticing little things. First off, Anthony stops laughing at the dumb jokes they always cracked on the break. Then he starts coming in a little disheveled. His uniform is wrinkled. His eyes are red, like he hasn't slept. One night on the loading dock, he stares at a pallet label for a long time. It's like his brain was in a buffer wheel on a computer just spinning. So Rob doesn't say anything at first. He sort of figures, well, we're grown men. He'll tell me if something's wrong. But the next week, Anthony snaps at a supervisor, completely out of character. Then he apologizes 3 times in the next 5 minutes. You can see his hands shake when he signs a write-up for a piece of equipment they got. Later that night, around 3 a.m., they're both in the break room. The vending machine is humming. You got fluorescent lights that are buzzing. You got that lonely middle of the night feeling in a half-empty building. But Rob looks over and sees Anthony just staring at his coffee. He's not drinking it. He's not scrolling on his phone. He's just staring. "Hey, man," Rob says. "You good?" "Yeah." Anthony replies kind of automatically, "I'm just tired." But something in the way he says tired makes Rob's radar light up. It's not regular tired. It's bone deep, soul heavy tired. Rob takes a breath. This is a moment where a lot of people change the subject. But he decides to be a real wingman. "Nah," he says. "I really mean, you seem different. I'm not your boss. I'm just your boy on nights. You okay?" There's a long pause. Anthony shrugged his shoulders. Then the shrug kind of crumpled down. And he says, "Honestly, I'm not. My marriage is falling apart. I'm behind on rent. And some days I think everybody'd be better off if I just disappeared." He says it flat, like he's commenting on the weather. Oh, for a second, Rob feels that old instinct come in, crack a joke, say something like, "Don't talk like that," and then move on. But instead, he remembers something his own therapist once told him: when someone shows you their pain, don't look away. Rob looks at him in the eye and says, "I'm glad you told me that. I'm not letting you disappear, man. Not on my watch." So he sits there. He doesn't preach. He doesn't say, "You got to be strong." He just listens. So, for 20 straight minutes in that ugly break room, he lets Anthony unload everything: the panic attacks in the car, the empty refrigerator at home, the nights he can't shut his brain off. Then Rob does one more wingman move. He says, "Look, when we roll off shift this morning, I'm driving you to talk to somebody. My counselor helped me when I was in the dark. I'll sit in the waiting room if you want." You don't have to do this solo. Anthony hesitates, but then he nods, not because he suddenly feels better, but because for the first time in a long time, he doesn't feel alone. They check out at 6 a.m. The sun's barely coming up. Instead of going home and pretending everything is fine, Anthony gets in Rob's car. They drive to a community clinic 6 miles away. Then months later, Anthony will say that the turning point wasn't the clinic or the medication or even the therapy, though all that helped. The real turning point was the moment at 3 a.m. when his wingman refused to let his pain stay hidden. Sometimes being a wingman isn't pulling somebody out of a burning aircraft. Sometimes it's just sitting in the dingy break room asking, "Are you really okay?" and being willing to handle the truth. Real wingmen don't wait for a crisis. They check in, they listen, and they aren't afraid to say, "I'm here for you, no matter what." That's the story, Commander Drew.
That's great. And remember, you can't fly this life solo. Get yourself a wingman. Be a wingman for somebody else. And never, never ever leave your people behind. That's our motto here on the Wingman Show. Help somebody, it'll come back. So, for everybody out there who can hear my voice, whatever you think is important and whatever you think is beautiful, and most importantly, whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too, Commander Drew. And we appreciate all of you out there who listen, like, and share our message. As a set a goal to yourself, share this with at least one other person. Let them hear something good, something positive for a while. We'd appreciate a subscription. If you're looking at us on YouTube, click that notification icon, hit the bell. That way you'll get an alert every time we put out a new episode. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you feel so inclined, a positive review would help us spread the word also. So we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.